Okay, everyone. Today we're going to discuss some brief introduction about the Xamarin Forms. Hope you all can see my sharing and hear clearly. So let's first move on to the agenda today. We're discussing about what is Xamarin Forms, and then the architecture of the Xamarin, and how Xamarin works, and some brief introduction about the how to install, and XAML versus code. XAML, which is XML based language, so I will describe this later on, and PCL versus SAP, so that means portable class library was shared as a project, and then move into the accessing the elements in code behind, data binding, and some layouts, stack layout, grid, and absolute and relative layouts, and the navigation pages, so master detail page, tab window, carousel page, and the toolbar. So this is the agenda today, and while moving that, we plan to do some demonstration of developing these user interfaces. This is example of the grid layout, and hope you can see this is the using absolute layout. I am trying to cover all these three layouts in the working on our period, so let's try my best. First thing, what is Xamarin Form? Xamarin Form is the library that enables you to build native apps for iOS, Android, and Windows using C# code base. What that means? Your existing C# code can build native apps for the Android or iOS and Windows native apps. So if you are familiar with the Silverlight or Windows Presentation Foundation, the Xamarin Forms will be very familiar to you. So what is the Xamarin Form? Xamarin Form contains two parts basically. The first thing is XAML, which is XML based language, which stands for the Extensible Application Markup Language. What is it does? It's used to define user interfaces of the application, like the button and elements where it should put and how it look like likewise. And the next thing is the code behind. The code behind is responsible for the behaviors. If the button click, what should it do? And if the item select from the list, how it should behave likewise. So these responsibilities belongs to the code behind. So XAML and code behind I will show you in later on. So these two consist in Xamarin Forms. So let's move on into the architecture. So basically Xamarin Forms built on top of the two existing libraries called Xamarin.Android and Xamarin iOS. So with the Xamarin Forms, we are working with the single unifying API for creating user interfaces. That means the common set of elements are defined in a Xamarin Form, and Xamarin Form internally map these to the corresponding native equivalent. And what does that mean is if you define a button in a Xamarin Form, this is how it look like in the iOS and Android. In the iOS platform, it's the buttons looks like just like a link, and the Android it's a brown button with the box shape. So if you define the button in a Xamarin Form, so internally it maps to the native equivalent. So you don't have the same layout across the all platform. It's depending on the platform, it render according to that. So that's what I mean, unified API, set of unified API defined in the Xamarin Forms. So since the Xamarin Form built on top of these existing libraries, I mean the Xamarin.Android and iOS, so you are not limited to the common set of APIs. If you need to access platform specific things, you always have that. So, and the next topic is to how the Xamarin works. So all Xamarin products in this sense, Xamarin.Android, iOS, and Xamarin Forms are built off of the Mono framework. It is an open source version of .NET for non-Windows platforms like Linux, Unix. So Mono runtime is not much familiar, not much popular. Like in the recent years, it's getting popular. Other than that, so talking about the Mono framework, Mono consists of a .NET class library, and on top of that, we had libraries called Mono for Android and Mono Touch. The later, now it's renamed to the Xamarin.Android and Xamarin.iOS. So apart from the basic .NET class library, we had in the Mono we had the libraries to access the native APIs of the Android and iOS. So this slide describes that. So we have additional assemblies in the Mono runtime, which is not come with the native Android or iOS, which contains APIs to mimic the native behavior. These are included in Mono runtime. So this is how it's look. And now let's talk about the how the Xamarin.Android compiles. So how the C# code bring into the native Android code. So Xamarin.Android and Xamarin iOS follows the different behaviors when it comes to the build, convert that C# code to the native. So when you build the application for Xamarin.Android, Xamarin C# compiler compiles your C# code into intermediate language, or IL, we call it IL. So, and then it's make the Mono runtime in the application, and then it's converted to the native. So it's a pretty much similar mechanism when you build the C# application. In our IFS application also, we had the .NET runtime in our machines, we compile it to IL and likewise. So this we call, you already know that this is called just-in-time compilation, or JIT. But Xamarin iOS does not support for JITting. So it's compile its C# code to IL, and then we need Apple device to convert that IL to native code that can understand by iOS. So when you build application for iOS, we need the physical machine, Apple machine, to compile that. So no JITting allowed here. In other words, when you, if I go to the previous slide, when you deploy the Android application, Mono runtime also with there. You need to deploy Mono runtime as well, but in iOS, it's no Mono runtime included when execute the application. So a lot of theory parts discussed. So I hope you can you understand. And then move on to the next slide. This is the slide I shown in earlier. Xamarin.form.co. This is the library which contains the all common set of APIs. So I will describe this during the demo. And next is some installation. I'm not going to do the installation right now. I just put the link here, and it's very straightforward. Installation. So I put the link in the slide, so you can go to the these instructions. Xamarin for the Windows, it comes with the Visual Studio 2015 or higher. Yes, it says 2013 as well, but you can download the latest version, 2017 free versions there. You can try it. And I'm not going to detail in how to install the Visual Studio. So if you go to this link, and these are very straightforward and visualize everything here. But to build the Android application, you need to download the Android SDK, and you need to configure AVD, which means virtual device, to execute the application. So I think this document describes everything you need. Okay, then SAML versus code. So I will do a very small demo. Now it's build something like this. Welcome to Xamarin, and you go to the Visual Studio 2015. I use the community edition because that is free one. And create new project. I'm not sure whether Colombo people can see this, because under this Visual C# category, select the cross-platform and the cross-platform app for Xamarin. And I name that what do you call Xamarin demo, I guess, and click OK. Then this dialog. So UI technology, it's select the Xamarin form, and the code sharing strategy. This is the topic I will describe that later on. Shared project or portable class library. I select the portable class library, and I tell you why I select that later on, and click OK. So it's creating the project for Android. You can see that creating project Xamarin.Android. Xamarin demo.Android. And then for iOS project, so then it's asked, the first time it's asked to set up the Mac agent. So I'm not going to show you that, because for the moment we need to have a physical Mac machine to compile that. So skip that part. And so these are the two projects included here. As you can see, Android project and iOS project. And I haven't installed the Windows APIs with my Visual Studio. That's why we didn't have any project for Windows app. That's because my limited space in C drive. So you can try with that if you have a lot of available space in C. So I will remove that this project for the moment, because I haven't installed any iOS emulator. Okay, now we only have the Android project and the common portable class library project. So this is the main page included there. So as you can see here, it's content page and the welcome text, default text there. We just execute and see how it look like. It's compiling. Since this is the first time, it may take some time to load the emulator. So starting emulator. That is the default text shown here. Welcome to Xamarin Forms. So maybe it's good to try to develop a user interface like this. It's maybe I think now you can clearly see it, isn't it? Increase the font size. Let's create the stack layout. I will show you the stack layout, what is this stack layout and everything in the layout section. So stack layout and closing tag. The stack layout, it should be a stack layout means it's align the elements in a linear way, whether it's horizontal or vertical. The default it's a vertical. So like this, it's arrange these two labels and buttons vertically. So if you see that this is vertically aligned and these text aligned to the center. So I create the vertical option. There's a property called vertical option. Enter. Okay. And then if you want to create the label, and the text property here, maybe we can say what is that? Welcome to Xamarin. And I'm going to set the font size. It will be higher than the previous one. We have the font size property. Let's say it's 30. And text color. If you want to change text color, we can say white. Horizontal option then. Horizontal option is also center. Close the label. For the background color, I already write down the background color here. This is you can set the background color in a content page, main page. Background color, can give the hash code here, and 7. Okay, let's stop that executing and execute it again. Okay, something similar to it, but not the exact one. So same way we can add another label. I just copy that and paste it here. Sorry, paste it there. Change the font size to 20 and what was that? Cross-platform. Cross-platform app made easy, right? Okay, and yeah, like so. It should be cross. Double S, isn't it? Okay, like I see, if you add enter the button again, we can property button text. I mean button. What is the text it should display in the button? So it's login. Text color white, and the background color we can change to like this. So I'm not going to implement the next button here. So that's how you define the create user interfaces using the Xamarin. So let's stop that and move into the presentation. Okay, I think I do in the demo. So you remember when you create the application, it's asks whether how the code should share, whether it be a portable class library or shared asset project. So these are the two ways we use to share in the code across the different platforms. So the recommended approach is to use portable class library because it's more cleaner way of writing the code. So I will go on to the next slide. In the portable class library, we ported code to multiple platforms, which means I have write down some device, how to write the device specific code there. So which means the version of .NET that is available for Android and iOS project is different from the version used in Windows project. So it's depending on the platform, it's the version of the .NET included in these projects will be different. So I will show that in later on. As shared asset projects, we use the same set of code in each platform, and in the build time it compiles depending on how we write in the code. I mean, if like this, if it is iOS project, execute this one. If it is Android, execute this part. Like so, even though it's shown as a different project, in Visual Studio it's not like that. So that's why it's not recommended to use the shared asset project. If I go to the go again to call this one. So even though you select the shared asset project, you may see that a different project there and different project there. So in the real time, it's not like that. So if you select the portable class library, these library included into this Xamarin.Android project. So if you go to the references, you can see that the Xamarin demo library included into the Android project, which is the DLL compiles from portable class library project, and it's included there. Okay. Any questions so far? Or you didn't understand anything? Okay, then I move to the accessing the element in code behind. So I show you how to define the user interfaces using Xamarin, and then move to the access that is from the code behind. Okay, so let's talk about this one. Okay, I will delete those three items, and I'm going to create the box view and the slider. And when you change the slider, it's change the color opacity of that box view. So that's the demo I'm going to do right now. For the box view, you can have box view. First, maybe you can set the horizontal option. The vertical option it's set horizontal option, center, width, request. So in this case, we use the width rather than specifying exact height or width. We have the property called width request. So that is in the different platforms and different devices, we may have to change that pixel size depending on the resolution and everything. So that's the reason we use the property name property called width request and height request. And maybe I background color red or something, red. Close the box here and execute it again. It should have the red box with height 150 pixel and width 150 pixel like this. So I'm going to enter a slider. Its name, maybe a slider. You can have slider or I don't need this much big, so when you change the slider, for the moment nothing happens, so we have to write it. And we can set the value change property here, slider value change, and then it suggests the event handler. I click enter. So this is the default. You can change this name, slider value change. when you set the event, you go back to the code behind. So this is the code behind file, the main page, and the main page sample.cs. This is the code behind file, same as the our forms in the we work. So we had the code and the designer file. Here it's other way around. First you have the designer and then code behind. Yes, you can see the value change event created here. We define the slider value change, and then what should happen, the opacity of the box view should change according to the slider value. So before that we have to reference for the box view. This is the way we define the naming the elements. X name. X comes from the this is belong to the these namespace. XML namespace Microsoft WinFX 2009. So I name it as a box view. I think I missed that horizontal option. Okay. Now you can refer it the code behind. So okay, I think I have to compile it before. It will not automatically get. Rebuild the solution. But if you're familiar with the Android Studio, it's you don't need to build it. Android Studio has different way of handling that, so I will show you if you have time. Okay, it's successful. Now we have the box view opacity with the value of the slider, which means the value change arguments come from here. E dot new value. And it just set the initial value for slider here as well. Slider dot value to 0.5. You see that these change according to the slider. So that's how the elements access from the code behind. Okay, binding. So before move on to that, I think you had idea about you understand everything I said. So the data binding is the technique used in a lot of UI frameworks like Windows Presentation Foundation, Silverlight, and the web framework like Angular and Knockout. So a lot of UI frameworks use this data binding technology. What does that mean? The data binding means bind one property of the user element to another property of the object. So the same as we did earlier. So what we have done is we set the uh, property of the box view opacity to the value of the slider. So that we need to catch the value change event and assign the value. So with the data binding, you don't need to uh, do the event handling. So internally, it's generate the event handler with the framework. So you don't need to catch that value change event and assign that value to the opacity, or in this example, likewise. So let's do a small demonstration of how we can do the data binding without doing the event handling. So want to okay, I will change this and remove this event and go to the SAML page and delete that event handler. So we just have, maybe it's good, otherwise you can't see everything. Okay. So now we just have the box view and slider. We don't bind any elements. So what we are going to do here is we just going to do the same thing we did earlier, but without using the events. To do that, we need to set the opacity of the box view. So opacity equals, so we use a special syntax with the curly braces. The curly braces tell the Xamarin XAML parser to this is not the not just text, it's the markup extension. So we called these what we call curly braces as a markup extension. Between those curly braces, it's not considered as the text, and it's a binding expression. So for the binding, we use the keyword binding and binding source. What we should bind, that is the we should bind the slider. We will give the source, again the calibrate, source braces, again we give the source reference x reference, reference of the name of the slider. So in this case, slider. Okay. Now next thing, so we bind the slider, but we didn't say to the Xamarin which property, what we should bind to the box view opacity. That is the value of the slider. So in this case, path equals value. So what does that mean? This tell to the Xamarin compiler, bind the source, which is the slider, to the bind the value of this slider to the opacity of the box view. So you compile it, we should see the same thing, the same behavior without using event handler. So let's see that. See whether it's worked or not. Still executing, I don't know. Maybe I will stop that and execute it again. I think I had some misspelling here. Okay. Reference. Yeah. Can't see the box here because the initial value is set to the 0 here. Because likewise. So that is the data binding. Likewise, we can bind the element of another property. So moving to the next layout. Before moving to the layout, is there any question to ask? Okay, then without wasting time, let's move on to the, because another 15 minutes we have. Move on to the layouts. So stack layout. First, stack layout. I already talk about the stack layout and show you. Stack layout organizes the view in one dimensional, like a stack, either horizontally or vertically. So this is how this stack layout shows in a different platform. The leftmost one is iOS and Android, and the Windows Phone. Grid. Then we have the grid layout. Grid that is supposed to arrange the view in rows and columns. But that doesn't mean that grid have the concept of table, which is rows, columns, and cells. It's just arrange the layout, arrange the elements in a grid. So it's not should not confuse with the table structure, which contains rows and columns. We have rows and columns, but it's not similar to the table structure, tabular data. So this is how the grid looks in the different platforms. So good example is the calculator app. Absolute layout. So before moving to the absolute layout, I think we just quickly go to build some interface like this. I think it's okay to take 10 to 15 minutes after 12. Is that okay, everyone? Okay. I will go through very quickly. So this, as you can see here, this is arranged in a grid format, and you can see the separate columns and rows, and like this. So it's arranged in a grid format, and you can see these text view expand 2 rows and 3 columns, and these dial button expand in 3 columns, and you can see that some padding, we have some padding between the borderline and the button. So it's something like this. So okay. I will delete stack layout. Nothing is there. And remove this background color. I change that to like this. For the grid layout, same as the stack layout, we had grid. Adding, I will give you 40. The row spacing. Row spacing means how much space we should keep between rows and columns. So here we have little bit space. So give the rows spacing 10. Columns spacing 10 again. Like this. Start row definition. So as you see here, see this layout. First element take twice higher than the rest of the rows. So we can define that in the row definition. Sorry, grid. Row definition height. What does that mean? It's allocate 2 times space for the first row and equally divide the height, screen height for the rest of the rows. Row definition height close, and then place the grid elements. So the grid elements we use numbering starting from 0. I mean, then column 0, column 1, column 2, and row 1, row 2, row 3, likewise. So the first element is the column 0 and row 0. So it should be the label, first one, label grid dot row 0, and the grid dot column 0. So then the label placed 0th and 0 position in the grid. Text you can get text 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. Okay. Then the first element should expand among these 3 columns. So you can define the column span. Can do column span grid dot column span 3. Okay. And of course give the font size as well. Maybe or something, and close. So likewise you can define the first button here, number 1 button, it should be first row, 0th column. Grid row 1, grid dot column 0, and the text 1. Okay. font size, we can get the font size. It's 30 and the background color should be white, isn't it? Right. Okay. So then this button will place 0 column and first row. Likewise, you can define each and every button. So I copy that and paste, otherwise it will take a lot of time. Now next one, row 1, column 1, text should be 2. Next thing is column 1, row 1, column 2, text should be 3. And next thing is column 2, sorry, row 2, column 0, text should be 4, which is this button there. And again, I pasted column row 2, column 1, the text should be 5. And the row 2, column 2, text should be 6. So this one. So if I execute that, it will not same like this, but we can stop it and execute. Otherwise, see that, so it's not arranging accordingly. So we have to have define others as well. So we have little bit problem here because we need to. I have to define this in a center, display it in center. So I think you get the idea how it should how the elements should placed in a grid layout. So since we don't have much time, I will quickly go to the presentation again. So grid layout, absolute layout. Absolute layout can position is it's define elements by positioning and its size. So which means x and y coordinates for the positions and the pixels of size. So 0th position, 10, 100 and 100 place assigned to that element. So likewise, the interesting thing is in absolute layout we can overlay element on top of each other. So this is the how it looks like in 3 different platforms. And a relative layout, I'm not going to discuss this one because you are most familiar with the relative layout. So the navigations, master detail pages available there. So that is also I'm not going to go into the detail this one as well because you all know what is the master detail page. So same thing here. And the tab pages. So and this is how looks the tab pages in different platform. In iOS, tabs display the bottom of the screen, and the Android and Windows phone it's appears on top of the screen. So depending on that, the Xamarin internally compiles how the tabs show. Carousel page, you may not that much familiar to the carousel page. It is something like that navigate through the gallery. So you need to have the same layout of the each and every carousel page, and you need to use a swipe gesture to go forward and backward to navigate the carousel page. The difference between tab pages and carousel page, tab page you can have different layouts in different tabs. For the carousel page, we need to have the same layout in each pages, and you can use a swipe gesture to navigate back and forth. The toolbar, this is some interesting thing. You can define the toolbars in Xamarin. I plan to do some demo as well, but now it's almost come to the end. Allocated time, it's 12 now, so I'm not going to do any demonstrate here. Maybe I can give you some sample code after this presentation. So if you are interested, you can try it, that toolbar and the this one absolute layout. So that's the toolbar tab page. Now we come to the end of the presentation. So far what we learned: Xamarin Forms. What is Xamarin Forms? Architecture, how it works, bit of the installation, and I'll just show you. XAML was code, portable class library was shared as a project, accessing the code element, accessing the elements in the code behind, how to do the data binding, and different layouts, and how to navigate between activities, between forms. Apart from that, what's in the box? So that means what are the common elements that you can work with in a Xamarin Forms. So I just copied that image from the Xamarin documentation and put it there. Progress bar, switches, views, box view, buttons. We talk about the box views, button and labels there, date entry. So lot of common APIs now available in a Xamarin Forms. So these are the pages available there. We discuss master detail, tab, and carousel. Unfortunately, I couldn't able to do any demonstration now regarding the navigation page. So that means the toolbar and the layouts. We discussed the stack layout, absolute, and relative and grid layouts. And content view, I didn't specially say that content view, but you saw that in the code. And we didn't discuss about the scroll view and frames. So that's it, I think. Yes, that's it. Any question or comment? Sorry about that, I didn't take any time to show you how to design this element like, the page like this. So anything? No? Then let's find out the presentation though. Think twice, code once. Okay. Thank you very much.